Oh, it's been a hot minute, hasn't it? So it's been a while since I've talked about anything mascot horror related. Specifically, I talked about Cotton of Ban, but today we're not going to talk about Ban. Instead, today we're going to talk about one of, if not the best, mascot horror games ever created, named Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. Now I gotta give a bit of an explanation on this. Poppy Playtime was released on October 12, 2021, and it instantly became popular overnight. But it was also really hated because it wasn't scary, but it had cool ideas, but that were just ideas. 1 year later, Chapter 2 came out, and it was worse than the first one. Not only was it way less scary than the first, but it was also super buggy and just a mess. But in January 2024, Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 came out and it blew everyone's minds out, including mine, cause this game is so scary and just an amazing experience. So let's dive into Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, the best mascot horror game of 2024. Well, until FNAF Into the Pit comes out anyways. Right away, Catnap, the main threat and antagonist of this chapter, throws us down at a garbage disposal so we could get crushed. After we escape this room, and a room with hydraulic presses, which we see glimpses of Catnap looming throughout the room with us, it's pretty scary and a cool way to make the player feel that they are watched the whole time. After we leave this room, we complete a new puzzle and we meet Ollie, who would be guiding us throughout our journey. We get into a tram which leads us to Playcare,
our very own on-site orphanage.
Playcare is a huge step up from the previous chapters. Just the environment alone shows to you how much this game has evolved. Our goal of this chapter is to allocate gas from the right to the left side to progress. We also get introduced to a new gimmick, the purple hand. With this hand, we can stand under some situational platforms and launch ourselves up to heights we couldn't reach before. We do some puzzles to allocate the gas from the right to the left side, but the power goes out. Ollie tells us that we should allocate power throughout Home Sweet Home and bring it back to the facility. Home Sweet Home is my favorite environment. Having an area dedicated to this creepy haunted mansion aesthetic is such an amazing setting. We have an encounter with Catnap, and then we approach a long hallway leading us to a room which looks like an infirmary. We find a VHS tape, we plug it into this TV, and then it seemed that Huggy Wuggy changed horror genre. Joking aside, we watch this employee training tape as Huggy's face becomes more analog horror-like. Then Huggy Wuggy comes out of the freaking TV and chases us. After that, we wake up and we go into the grand hallway where we find our main gimmick of the chapter, the gas mask, which the model is specifically based off the CT-12 respirator, a modified version of the S10 gas mask. How do I know all of this? Well, I have to inform you that I am a lover of gas masks. The mask's purpose is simple. You need to wear it when traversing throughout Catnap's gas. We open this gate which we powered throughout 2 batteries we found. We see Kissy Missy, do some more puzzling and finding batteries. We finally allocate all of the gas we needed and we make our way back to the lobby where we encounter Kissy Missy and Poppy. They come with us to turn the power on, and Poppy tells us once again that we need to stop the prototype. Ollie tells us we need to restore power to the gas production zone. He sends us to the school area where we encounter another threat, Miss Delight. Firstly, we hear her throughout the speakers before we encounter her in person. We encounter her when we turned the power back on. Miss Delight has a very different style of hunting. Now yes, I know that Weeping Angel enemies aren't the most unique thing, but Miss Delight doesn't just teleport to you. You can hear her delayed steps towards you as you turn around. We plug in batteries into these gates and run to the exit, where Miss Delight gives up her hunting style and makes a break towards you, but she gets crushed by a metal door. Anyway, we find our third and final gimmick, the flare gun, which for now we are just using it as a temporary light source. We do some puzzles, find Catnap standing in front of a shrine where we learn was made by human remains and toys. You know, the usual stuff. Later we enter the entrance of the playhouse area where we need to power on this mechanism in the middle of the room, which we need to avoid these smiling critters, but we can also use our flare gun to make them run away. We escape this room, which leads us to one of the highlights of this chapter.
You're Pappy's angel. Come to save us.
We encountered Dog Day chained up and left to be tortured by Catnap. This moment genuinely caught me off guard, as I didn't really thought that Mob Entertainment had the balls to do it. I mean, we stumble across a crucified heretic whose body is falling apart, and then suddenly he is eaten alive from the inside and puppeted by the smiling critters. I am going to talk about it more later, but if you want to see a more in-depth analysis on this topic, I will have a link in the description where Postra talks about it. Anyway, we get chased by Dog Day and we make our way back to the surface. Ollie calls us again, revealing some more backstory for Catnap while we allocate power from the counselor's office. In this area, we get to use more of the gas mask, which is pretty neat. Throughout this section, we see glimpses of Catnap, which builds up horror. We do more puzzles, we enter a vent, and we get to the room we needed to get earlier. We do some more puzzles there, and then we get back where the area is completely filled up with gas, while we attempt to make our way out of Catnap's attack. Then we see some visions of what we're really doing here. After that nightmare, a new one starts. Yay! Ollie gives us one last task to reach 100% power. We get a big battery and we head back into the production zone to finally move the gas. Catnap appears and fills all of the place with gas, which makes us hallucinate, seeing him more twisted and nightmarish. Even if we aren't scared of this, it is very clear that the player is absolutely terrified of Catnap. A little detail I'm going to talk about later. We are brought up into a new facility. We are placed into a sit and survive theme final boss against Catnap. And I'm gonna say it here, this is the moment and the one with Dog Day that won me over as a Puppy Playtime fan. As many times as I would play this section, it will always terrify me and make me hear my own heartbeat. This moment is very clear of what is paying homage to. You know, the funny spooky bear thing that is paying homage to. After we complete this section, we are greeted to this cutscene where we electrocute Catnap and set him on fire. But thankfully for Catnap, the prototype comes and Catnap gives into its execution with no hesitation, killing Catnap and making him part of the prototype. After we witness this chilling sight, we make our way back to the entrance of the gas station production zone and we finally allocate the gas to the left side of the facility. We make our way back into the final room of the game, but we hear Poppy talk to us, congratulating us, before showing us a VHS tape where we finally watch what truly happened in the hour of joy. Chaos and slaughter happens. Everyone was killed when the hour of joy happens. Again, props to Mob Entertainment that they had the probity to do it. After Poppy's monologue, we get into an elevator sending us down deeper into the facility. But as we get down, we hear Missy screaming because she was attacked by something. And end of chapter 3. So, the gameplay of Puppy Playtime Chapter 3 isn't different from the other chapters. You run around doing puzzles and stuff, but this game, as I said in my previous section, has some unique gimmicks. the purple hand, which with this hand we'd start on top of situational platforms and launch ourselves up to heights we couldn't reach before. The flare gun, which we use it as a light source and as a way to avoid the little critters, and the gas mask, which we use when we go throughout areas filled up with gas. All of these mechanics combined make the gameplay extremely fun, and it makes it stand out from the other chapters, especially the flare gun. This thing is so fun to use, man. Also, this game has a much faster pace than the other chapters. Instead of having a slower pace start so the player could remember the mechanics, instead the game starts with a normal to fast pace start, and I think this adds more into the horror of this game. And speaking of the horror, well, this game may lack a bit on the gameplay department. It definitely doesn't lack on the horror. So let's talk about the horror that this game creates. This game terrifies me. I think a great point to start here is by talking about the main antagonist of this chapter, Catnap. Catnap, at the first time you see a glimpse of him, you always have the impression that he could pop up and kill you from every single corner. This is not only makes the atmosphere of the game more creepy, but it also makes the game in general. He doesn't really appear much until the Home Sweet Home section, where we see what his gas could do to us. It constantly gives us hallucinations or nightmares. All of this section is a result of Catnap's gas. Going off of the assumption that our protagonist is sleeping and the first thing he sees is a nightmare promptly featuring Catnap establishes that in canon our protagonist is absolutely terrified of Catnap. Even if we don't find him particularly scary, our player is obviously horrified by him, to the point we constantly hallucinate him in every corner. After we finish with Home Sweet Home, we get more and more information about Catnap. With every single piece of information we get saying that Catnap is this violent monster. We see this when we encounter Dog Day for the first time. We see Dog Day, which is a crucified heretic whose body is falling apart. This was done to him because he disobeyed Catnap. From this point on, we now understand how violent Catnap really is, and we know if we encounter him, we wouldn't make it out alive. Then, out of nowhere, Catnap appears and scares the ever-loving shit out of us. He fills the room with gas and then he attacks us. After we wake up, we hear Catnap say, which is terrifying. This chapter's horror relies on Catnap and the creepy atmosphere that it makes. It's also amusing to me that this game started as a cash grab and then suddenly it became one of the best horror games in general. So yeah, this game was pretty great. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I personally think that it is one of the best horror games out there, and I seriously recommend it. Thankfully, Mob Entertainment made the right decision by actually making something scary and creepy instead of the cash grab garbage they have previously. And I think that this game is going to change the Mascot horror genre for the better. So I have been Dark Asset, and have a good one.